While Arsenal beat PSG comfortably at the Emirates, there was one big talking point about the squad overall, and that was the inclusion and the eventual debut of Mikel Merino coming on for Arsenal for the first time. In this video, we're going to go through the 26 minutes he played and what qualities he showed that can help Arsenal going forward, so let's get into it. Now, this game overall was very comfortable for Arsenal. In the first half, they were utterly dominant and scored 2 great goals, and in the second half, they controlled the game and didn't really give PSG many clear-cut opportunities despite them having some. Now, there's a lot of players in this game that really caught the eye. I thought Timber and Saka were brilliant. I thought Trossard, Partey and Havertz were also great as well. And there's definitely a lot of players you can look at within the Arsenal team, which I'll probably go through in the next coming days. However, I did want to do a video on the debut of Mikel Merino because I do think it is very important. This guy will start for us in the coming future and how exactly he can change the team into different ways. Now, I do think it is very important to look at the game state when he came on. He came on with 26 minutes left in the 64th minute. I think Partey, who he came on for, had a great game, but the momentum was definitely on PSG's side at this point. Timber, who was brilliant in the first half for Arsenal, got brought off for Kivior, and Arsenal definitely struggled to build up play a lot more with Kivior not really being that great at going forward, meaning that we were very reliant on Calafiori to make any sort of runs, and it didn't create much more fluid nature or much more variety in their attack. Now, when Merino comes on, he moves right back into the 6 and does play in that left centre mid 8 role, but most of the time when he came on, you would say he was very defensive because he was defending with Declan Rice in that back line because Arsenal were sitting deeper trying to just see out the game later on and defending with numbers like they're very good at. Now, this is something that Merino does bring. He is signed to be an 8 left centre mid who can attack and get into the box in good areas. He is not a primarily defensive midfielder like you may say Rice was before he joined Arsenal, or Thomas Partey for that example. He is someone that gets into the box, gets on the end of crosses and can do great link-up play in them half spaces within that side. However, this is also a really important factor why he was bought. He's 6'2", he loves duels and he's a big battler in there. There was many times where he came on and he was very physical but also winning the ball quite cleanly. Straight away that physical level on PSG was just there much more than they had, and straight away when he comes on he makes a tackle inside the box and is there to get the rebound tackle on Hakimi, clearing the ball for Arsenal. But the thing that I like about him is that he can sit deep, as you saw when Arsenal were in their low block next to Rice, but he also is very wanting to win the ball. He's a very aggressive player and does go sometimes hunting for it, but he has so much turning radius I think is really good, and also he has a lot of athleticism where he can actually catch up to play and run back and win the ball. This is something I've had an issue with Partey because not in this game but in other games when he goes out to make that first initial move, if the ball's played behind him he can't catch up, and this is something I've noticed from Merino. He seems a lot more quicker in these scenarios. Another thing is that he is so big and has defended before that I think he has a really good defensive awareness, especially in the setup that we have. Now, it is key to remember that this is only his 2 training sessions he's had with the club. The first one, the full one he got injured by Gabriel, and the second one he had was literally before the game happened. So he's not going to be all ready to know every single tactical part, even though I know Arteta has integrated him within the squad. Now here he is very tight to the same player, being Kolo Muani to Gabriel. Kolo Muani is a player that PSG like to play off of, and you kind of have to, where he is going to hold up the ball and pass it off to the wingers or Hakimi or someone else who's going to have a shot most likely. Now, it's very interesting that he stays narrow to him here. I think it's mostly because Trossard isn't that far away from him, and also Rice has gone over to try and win the ball back, and obviously it does leave pace for Hakimi in there, and I think Kivior's a little bit confused whether he goes or not because there could be 2 players over there. But his position is also very adaptable. When the ball comes on the outside, he is the first person to pick it up and drive with the ball and run, which I think is very important, and he really shows how good he is on the ball, picking the ball up, trying to go past the player, getting tackled, and it ends up going to Saka and we clear. I do think this predictive movement, this awareness to pick up the ball and run with it, I think can be very key for Arsenal. This is something that we see by Rice all the time, where he can pick the ball up and run past players, but while he does have a powerful run, he sometimes doesn't have the most amazing technical ability to always go past a huge amount of players. He's a better runner into space. Now, I think Merino can bring that as well, but also he's got the physical nature, but he's also just a lot more quicker and aware than I think Partey is averagely. I do think because he is a more central midfielder player, he has that sort of awareness to go into them attacking areas and get Arsenal up the pitch when they are defending deep like this, because he does still have attacking tendencies. I also really liked when Merino came on that he was very confident in the pocket. He was picking the ball up, there was 2 or 3 players around him in a press, and he was shifting the ball out quite comfortably. Now, I know this may not seem like the hardest thing in the world, admittedly it's not, but it is very important for a player that hasn't hasn't played for their club, hasn't trained that much with the team, to have the confidence on the ball to be able to do these things. I also think this is a level where we need our defensive midfielders to be a lot better on the ball and just keep the ball running a lot of the time. And I do think in a sense he could be an upgrade on Thomas Partey, who in my opinion gives the ball away too much. Now on the ball, I can't really make too many judgments about Merino in this game. He only made 6 out of 7 passes. He only made about 16 touches. He didn't get the ball a lot. And even then, a lot of his passes were quite simple because I think he was just in that situation where he's ticking things along, which was very important for how the game was going, and we kind of needed that in there. I liked some of the positions he picked up within the box in that half space, actually on a defensive side, where he was working close to people like Trossard to actually clear the ball. And I do think when Kivior's positioning is a little bit lackluster sometimes defensively, I think Merino is actually covering for him really well within that left space of the pitch. But I do think that Merino really showed a great level of out of possession style, which obviously is so important to our team. We're so good. Luis Enrique even spoke about it, which I completely agree with. Out of the possession side, we're one of the best in Europe, and Merino comes in and he looks like he knows what he's doing. Straight away, I loved how he was backing up Rice on the right hand side, yet again being fluid in your role, not being very strict on I need to be on this left side, being able to come over and help, not only from a defensive perspective, but also when we needed the passes off. But also he just seems so aware and so quick at being a trigger in a press. I do think when we press teams in a lot more in a man-to-man fashion, Merino's going to help us a lot on this left side because we usually press them down the right. There was a few times PSG tried to play out in the hole and Hakimi would invert kind of and go up a bit, and Merino would be very aware and get them tackles in to get us up the pitch. And in the final third, when we've got all our players back and we need us to defend, I really liked he was picking up great positions yet again, and he wasn't really tasked with man marking people that much. He kind of broke off from them and had to go towards the ball, and I felt he did this brilliant. He kept winning tackles, kept putting his body in there, getting the ball up to players that can progress the ball forward and get some sustained possession for Arsenal. And I think this moment is one of the key moments in the game. They go for a run with Hakimi, which I think later on in the game Hakimi kind of just thought, oh, we'll take runs at Arsenal because we're not going to get through their team, which is fair enough. I think that was probably their best option. And Martinelli can't catch him. Kivior yet again doesn't really know when to make a decision, and yet again he makes the tackle wrong. But seeing Merino's pace to be able to catch up, which is something that I can't say Partey has consistently, and be able to catch up to Hakimi and make a brilliant tackle and clear the ball is something we exactly need him there. He's a brilliant on the ball player, but also he can offer support in off the ball situations where we may make mistakes. And obviously that's Kivior, who you would expect not to start for Arsenal that much, but when Calafiori goes up into them attacking positions and maybe can't get back or is getting double up on, Merino coming in into them half spaces and making the tackle is very important for the future of that left hand side. Despite only playing around 26 minutes for the game, his defensive stats are actually really impressive. 2 out of 3 tackles, 2 clearances, 5 defensive actions, 3 recoveries, and was dribbled past once. He also won 4 duels and lost 2, so getting into 6 already is incredible, and I do think he brings exactly what I expected. Now when we play against teams who have the ball a little bit more or in a situation where he starts, then it'll be very interesting to see how he works with that left hand side in a forward position. But in this game he had to kind of defend a lot more, and I think he showed a brilliant level at that despite actually being a central midfielder rather than a defensive one. And that's the thing, I don't know about Merino's fitness levels. I don't know if he can actually start this weekend. Maybe they're still going to ease him in and not actually start him, which makes sense, but also you could start him against Southampton to see how he can do when we have the ball a lot more against what you can say a weaker side than the team we played today. It'll also be interesting to see what happens with the Timber injury news. I think he'll be fine overall, but maybe you want to rest him as well for that game. And it'll be interesting to see who Arsenal play on the weekend with Ranieri potentially coming in. What did you guys think about Mikel Merino's debut? I think it showed a lot of promise, and in a role I don't think he's like really been signed for, specifically the defensive role, sitting back. I think it's very important that he can do that side of the game as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to watch my video of my reaction to the game, watch the video before this, and if not, I'll see you in the next one.